When Yuan was preparing to divorce me for his senior, she had a car accident and fell into a coma. But his soul has been trapped by my side, and I pretended not to see it. The doctor said that he might never wake up again, and his senior immediately distanced himself from the relationship and quickly announced his relationship with someone else. Later, Liu Yuan woke up, and he reappeared in Liu Yuan's calm eyes, saying gently and affectionately, "Liu Yuan, you finally woke up. I have been waiting for you." I looked at Liu Yuan, who was unconscious with all kinds of tubes inserted all over her body in the ICU, and I couldn't help but feel a sad gloating in my heart. You see, this is the retribution for those who betray their sincerity. The doctor said that he had a serious brain injury and the chance of waking up was relatively small, less than 5. His senior, Makoto Ito, came to the hospital after hearing the news, looked at him with disdain, and said in a distant tone, "I hope you will get well soon," and never came again. He probably forgot that Liu Yuan had a car accident for him. Half a year ago, the day before Liu Yuan was going to divorce me, because of Makoto Ito's words on the phone, I got drunk at the party and couldn't go home. Liu Yuan drove to pick him up without caring about the bad weather of heavy rain and strong winds, and eventually suffered a series of car accidents. When I received the call and rushed to the hospital, I was faced with one then critical illness notice after another. No one can understand my mood at the time. On the one hand, I darkly hoped that he would die like this, and on the other hand, I viciously thought that it would be too easy for him to die like this. I don't know what kind of result I want. I just hope that he will experience all the pain I have suffered. But now he is sleeping in the hospital, turned into a vegetable, and his beloved Makoto Ito doesn't want him anymore. In fact, when I met Ito Makoto in a restaurant, I kindly reminded him. The doctor said that if the important people in his heart accompany him more and talk to him more, maybe the chance of waking up will be greater. He smiled noncommittally. What does that have to do with me? Why should I waste my best years on a vegetative person who has nothing to do with me? Anjabota, you are his husband, and you should be with him. Nothing to do with it. I silently read these 4 words, and I felt it was extremely ironic. When he asked Liu Yuan to leave me with a fever of 40 degrees to accompany him on his birthday, he didn't say nothing to do with it. When he wanted to file for divorce from me and was with him, he didn't say nothing to do with it. But when Liu Yuan got into a car accident for him and became a vegetative person and needed his company and care, he said nothing to do with. I looked at him calmly. Ito Makoto, he became like this because he wanted to pick you up from the party when you were drunk. Hearing this, he was immediately angry and retorted loudly, "Did I force him to pick you up with a knife and a gun?" It was obviously his own wish and self-indulgent desire to pick me up, but he was unlucky and got into a car accident and became a dying vegetable. Don't even think about blaming me. I stopped talking and quietly watched his back as he hurried away as if to avoid bad luck. Yes, Ito Makoto certainly wouldn't be willing to wait for a vegetable who might never wake up again. I tilted my head, and my eyes seemed to inadvertently pass by the soul that had been following me for a long time. With an unbelievable look and a tightly furrowed brow, he must be feeling very uncomfortable now. The URUY and didn't know that I could see him. It was the second week after the car accident, and I fell asleep accidentally while working in the study. The night wind blew in from the window that was never closed, waking me up. In the hazy vision, I saw URUY leaning against the wooden bookshelf, full of books with a sad expression, and the white gauze curtain occasionally brushed gently in front of her. The sleepiness dissipated immediately, and I even forgot to react, and kept lying on the table with half-open eyes. After a long time, I called the hospital and got the news. "Ms. Yu is fine today. The condition has not worsened, but there is no sign of waking up." After calmly hanging up the phone, I blinked and found that her whole body was slightly transparent. So I got up and stepped on the soft carpet, walked slowly to her, pretended not to see anything, reached through her body, and took down venture capital from the second shelf of the bookshelf. In the short few steps of turning around and walking back to the seat with the book, my emotions changed dramatically from panic to depression and then to calmness. Yu's soul left the body and was trapped beside me. Not only that, I could hear his voice. Because when I picked up the divorce agreement he had asked his lawyer to draw up, I heard him sneer, Jiboda, you must be very happy now. I am in a coma and can't divorce you. It's really what you want. He said it was what I wanted. He felt that I was pestering him and holding on to him until I agreed to divorce, which was unwilling and unwilling. But in fact, I really planned to give up on him. Are you happy? If not, I want to make him unhappy. So he heard with his own ears how Itomekto cut off his relationship with him. The nurse's footsteps sounded at the end of the corridor. I walked into the ICU silently and walked to his side. I have to admit that even if she was only wearing a hospital gown, her hair was limp and messy, her face was pale, and she was lying sickly on the bed. Liu was still very beautiful. The thick eyelashes cast a shadow under the eyelids, and under the delicate nose were full and just the right lips. The standard oval face shape, because of the coma, has lost a lot of weight and is still pure and sexy. But I like and I was never with her because of her face. After all, the more beautiful something is, the more dangerous it is. Still understand this truth. So when we first met as best man and bridesmaid at the same wedding, I classified her as a dangerous item. Except for the polite handing him a tissue when he was splashed with wine, I didn't have much contact with him. But the bad fate came and it couldn't be stopped. Soon we met for the second time because when I was jogging in the park in the evening, I accidentally saved an old man who fainted. Liu Yuan's grandmother. Since Liu Yuan invited me to dinner to express her gratitude, the number of times we met became more frequent. When it rained and I was trapped in the internship building, I would happen to meet Liu Yuan passing by, and then she would take me home, the event that was dragged to Liu Yuan's birthday party by friends during the holiday, facing the lit candles. He wished smooth relationship. There were so many coincidences that I noticed something was wrong, so I began to avoid them intentionally. But Liu Yuan not only didn't care about my alienation, but pressed on step by step until I couldn't retreat and asked him helplessly, what do you want to do? He smiled with his eyes and asked me briskly, Student Chiboda, I'm chasing you, can't you feel it? I don't know why Liu Yuan likes me, but since then he no longer carefully concealed it, but directly launched a fierce offensive against me. I resisted his approach and tried to keep a heart, but Liu Yuan at that time was beautiful, mature, humorous, and still the kind of thoughtfulness and tenderness that was devoted to you. To be honest, for me who has never been in love with a girl, it is almost impossible to be indifferent, and it is only a matter of time before I fall. The opportunity to agree to be with him was Valentine's Day. In order to negotiate a contract, I drank a lot of wine at the table. When I was leaving after the end, I accidentally ran into a family having dinner next door, my father and his lover, and the illegitimate child. At first, I didn't care and tried to pretend I didn't see it, but the illegitimate child just had to speak loudly. Brother, don't you say hello to dad when you see him? Then his mother also echoed, yes, Jiboda, your dad still misses you very much. Let's sit down and have a meal together. I paused, looked back at the family of three who forced my mother to death, and sneered. Why can't you still eat? Aren't you afraid that my mother will die with regrets and come to you at night? Probably stimulated by my words, he stood up and pointed at me. You rebellious son, shut up. I don't have a father like you. Before he finished speaking, the woman next to him picked up a glass of wine and splashed it on my face. The next second, a figure appeared behind me and splashed a glass of wine on her. It was Liu Yuan who suddenly appeared. He stood in front of me, sneered, and said, have a good meal, murderer, and then pulled my hand and walked out of the restaurant. In the flickering night, Liu Yuan carefully wiped the wine off my face with a tissue and did not mention the unpleasantness just now. To be honest, this is the first time in so many years that someone has stood in front of me with a protective attitude. Couples on the roadside come and go. I don't know how long it took before the silent atmosphere was broken. Yuan's tone was ordinary, as if asking me if I wanted to have a meal together. He asked me, Jiboda, do you want to spend Valentine's Day together? To this day, I can still remember the trembling of the seedling in my heart that broke through the soil. I looked into his serious eyes, followed my heart, and decided to be with him. So I looked at him with a smile in my eyes. Okay. He was stunned for a second, suddenly smiled, then took out the chocolate from the bag, opened one and put it in my mouth, looking at me expectantly. It's made by hand. Is it sweet? I smiled. Very sweet. It will always be sweet in the future. At that time, I was too stupid and naive, thinking that this later was forever. It was not until Itomaka returned to China that I realized that the deadline for later was before he appeared. After Itomakato appeared, all the promises and vows became a joke. I have seen countless answers on the internet about how powerful is the white moonlight, but the detailed descriptions of thousands of answers are no match for the look Liu Rui gave Itomakoto. It's a very cliché story. Ito Makoto is the white moonlight that Liu Rui loves but cannot get. After he chose to be with another woman and went abroad, Liu Rui has always been obsessed with him, and I am just a cannon fodder on his life. Rui only has one relative, his grandmother. He fainted because of stomach cancer. The only thing he is worried about in this life is Liu Rui, so he hopes to see him get married. I was chosen by Liu Rui to be a tool to make him feel at ease, but Liu Rui's grandmother really likes me and treats me very well. The love I felt from Liu Rui was an illusion, but the family affection his grandmother gave me was real. He would make me my favorite sweet scented osmanthus cake, prepare clothes for all 4 seasons for me in advance, and side with me when Liu Rui and I had conflict. He would then ask Liu Rui with a stern face, "What can Xiao Guji do wrong? He did it all for you." Even before he died, he said to me, "You are wronged for marrying this girl. Xiao Gigi, as long as you are fine, I will be with." At that time, Liu Rui's eyes were red. She held my hand tightly and promised, "I will." However, at a party 8 months after his grandmother's death, he reunited with Ito Makoto, who had broken up and returned to China. I found something wrong because of a very small thing. When we were having dinner together in the evening, I mentioned to him, after a sudden rainstorm during the day, a double rainbow appeared in the sky. Friends were posting photos of it. It is said that the appearance of a double rainbow means that a happy event is coming. After that, I asked him if he saw it, but he didn't answer because he was distracted. A few seconds later, he noticed that I had stopped eating and was quietly looking at him. He smiled gently and asked me, "Jiboda, what did you say just now?" I said, "It doesn't matter." Whenever I encountered a multiple choice question that I didn't know how to answer, I could rely on my intuition to accurately guess the correct answer. I didn't expect that this skill that I used to be proud of would one day be used on you or Rui. I almost couldn't control myself. I guess that Liu Rui was distracted for a few seconds because of a man. It turned out to be right. It was Aito Makoto. He was a senior who was 3 years older than Liu Rui. At that time, Liu Rui was not as mature and beautiful as she was later. She was just an ordinary college student. She couldn't beat the white, rich, and beautiful girl who also liked Tito Mikoto and had a wealthy family, so there was no doubt that he lost. He probably didn't expect that Ito Mikoto would break up and return to China one day, and he had already transformed successfully. It seemed that everything was just right. The separation in the past was just to meet again in the best time later. I don't know how much Liu Rui loves Atamakoto so that he can successfully call her away from me again and again without caring about her status as a wife. Her light words, "I want to be with you Rui, are enough to destroy my marriage, destroying my initial suspicion, later questioning, and finally begging and hysteria. You Rui pushed me away with disgust. Jared Boda, you look really disgusting now." That night I stood on the balcony all night, my tears wet one cigarette after another, and finally figured out one thing. Liu Rui is right. I am also disgusted with myself like this. So I gave up. When Liu Rui mentioned divorce to me again, I asked her, "In the past, for years together, have you ever been sincere?" She impatiently avoided my gaze and said, "No." I lowered my head and was silent for a few seconds, and calmly agreed to the divorce. She seemed a little surprised and looked straight at me. "What tricks are you playing this time?" "Yes, Several times before, I used to set an illness and car breakdown as excuses to delay the deadline. The only time when I finally wanted to divorce him sincerely, he was in a coma after a car accident for Ito Makoto, and then found that Ito Makoto not only decisively abandoned her, but also turned around and reunited with his ex. I heard that the reason why Ito Makoto broke up and returned to China was that his white, rich and beautiful girlfriend was ambiguous with his first love, and the two had many disputes and broke up. But, as the saying goes, you will never forget what you can't get, and you will regret to recover what you have lost. So when Ito Makoto returned to China uncontacted, Liu Ruyan appeared in the same occasion again and again, and approached each other step by step. The white, rich and beautiful also returned to China to find him. It is hard to say whether there is a possibility that Ito Makoto dokes by few mile when getting along with Liu Ruyan. After all, Liu Ruyan was once his competitor. And at the time when Liu Ruyan wanted to divorce me for Ito Makoto, by few I regretted and tried to save the relationship the most. She did many romantic and extreme things, apologized with drones, gave rings in the sea of flowers, and self-harmed after drinking. Ito Makoto watched quietly and continued to be with Liu Ruyan. Then, not long after he was in a coma in a car accident, when by few I hit Jindaoping again to apologize and confess, she agreed to get back together. No one knows what role Liu Ruyan played between them, but by few I did visit Liu Ruyan in the hospital once and said thankfully, although it may not be right to think so, I am very grateful for the car accident that night. Liu Ruyan, I won again this time. Liu Ruyan was behind him at the time, staring at him with a gloomy face because she was in a ghost state and could not do anything. From hearing Ito Makoto's farewell to witnessing Ito Makoto's return to get back together, Liu Ruyan was unbelievable at first, then became furious, and finally had to accept it all. I calmly and happily appreciated every bit of his pain, and I felt very ironic when I saw him quietly following me. He wanted to break up with me so much and didn't want to see me again, but in the end he was forced to be with me every day. Just like when we were just in love, we shared what we did every day without reservation so that each other could know each other's movements. Now he has to follow me to work, party, go shopping, and plan where to travel. After a long time, I began to hear his resentful and dissatisfied voice. I'm unconscious, and you still have the mood to go out for a trip? Do you have a heart? Don't care about my life or death at all. Djibouti dad lie down for too long and make you forget that you are married. Stay away from that woman. The woman he was talking about was an intern I lead named Jor. Among all the interns I lead, he was the only one who didn't call me Director G in a proper way, but called me G Boda with my full name, and he was also the most outstanding one among them. I actually don't care what they call me. Besides, Shorom's voice is clear and crisp, and when she calls me G Boda, people don't feel offended. But Liu Ruyan didn't think so. Whenever Joram appeared beside me, he would show a side of himself that I had never seen before, and he would roar in exasperation, G Boda, are you blind? Can't you see that his mind is not pure? Hearing this, I would look up at Joram, who was clean, bright, well-behaved, polite, and quietly working beside me, and I didn't understand. Ruyan, what are you anxious about? Of course, I am no longer a young boy who has not experienced much of the world, and I am not blind. It is indeed impossible for me not to see what Joram is thinking. He likes me. Joram's appearance is the smart and cute type that boys like nowadays. In terms of personality, she can act coquetishly when she should act coquetishly, and she is calmer than anyone else when she should be calm. Since I met him, I have almost never seen him lose control of his emotions. Even if a colleague accidentally deleted the plan he worked hard on, he could finish his breakfast at hand without rushing, and then calmly choose the fastest way to restore it or do it again. After solving the problem, I said to my colleague, who looked apologetic and worried, it's okay now, be careful next time. The only time I saw a panicked expression on his face was when we went to discuss a cooperation project together. After the discussion, he went to drive. I had a headache after drinking, so I rested in the box for a while and prepared to go find him. As a result, I met a drunk on the way. It was obviously him who hit me, but he took advantage of the alcohol and made trouble, stopped me, and asked me to apologize. To be honest, if it was when I just graduated, I would definitely be scared and apologize carefully. But it's not the case now, so I will ignore him and turn away. Then, at the moment when he was angry and wanted to hit me with a bottle of wine, I grabbed his wrist and held him tightly. Because of excessive force, the bottle was smashed on the ground and exploded instantly with a bang. When Jor-ong found me, her uneaten tidy skirt was rubbed with dust, but he hadn't noticed it yet. He pointed at my hand that was scratched by the debris and bleeding, and apologized to me with disordered breathing. "I'm sorry I'm late." I smiled at him. "Not late, just right." Later, he bought medicine to bandage my wound. On the way to drive me home, I looked out the window and said in a relaxed tone, "Jor-ong, I'm married." He didn't show any surprise. He looked forward and said casually, "Well, I know, but I heard that you want a divorce." These two sentences were the only time we talked about private matters since we met. What we said was true, and there was nothing wrong with it. So, Yu Yen's anger puzzled me. I obviously didn't do anything, and he obviously didn't love me. But it didn't matter because any of his emotions, including him, would no longer affect me. I continued to maintain a normal colleague relationship with Jor-ong until today, when I went to the event venue to check the layout of the site. The elevated structure suddenly fell down, and Jor-ong reacted very quickly and pushed me away, taking the pain of being smashed from me. I was fine, only my arm was slightly scratched, while Jor-ong's side, waist, and calf were injured to varying degrees. I followed the ambulance to the hospital, holding my heart, and finally waited for his examination results. When I heard the doctor say that he was fine and just needed to go home to recuperate, I received a call from Yu Yen's attending physician. It was also at this time that I suddenly realized that when Jor-ong and I fell together, Yen, who had been following me and calling Jiboda in a panic, was gone. At the same time, the doctor's voice came from the other end of the phone. "When we checked Ms. Liu just now, we found that her condition was getting better and there were signs of waking up." I held the hung-up phone, stood there for a while, and then went to the ICU, stood in front of Yen, who was still sleeping with her eyes closed, and smiled sarcastically. "Can she wake up with less than 5 chance?" I don't know whether Yen will wake up, but half a month after I left the hospital that day, I heard another thing. Ito Makoto broke up again. A long time ago, I saw a statement. There are only 0 times and countless times of cheating. So, not long after his reunion with him, his beautiful, rich girlfriend got involved with an unknown internet celebrity and wanted to break up with him. This incident is not surprising. What really surprised me was that Makoto Ito changed. His previous image of a cool and cold male god who left in a chic manner and was high above everyone else. In the huge shopping mall, he cursed and begged humbly without caring about his image. I watched the scene from a distance and it was very familiar. That was me in the past. I was like this when I held on to Yen and didn't want to let go, like a mentally ill lunatic. The most impressive time was on my birthday when I met him in a coffee shop who said he was going on a business trip and sat with Makoto Ito and had a good chat. At that moment, I felt like I was drenched in a bucket of ice water from head to toe, but my heart felt as painful as if it was roasted on a raging fire. I rushed over regardless and threw away everything on the table in front of them. And immediately stood up and angrily asked me, "Jiboda, you are crazy." Ito Makoto smiled elegantly and looked at Yen. "How could you marry such a man, Yen?" My reason was completely defeated, and I raised my hand and punched him. "Why not marry you, the mistress who ruined people's families?" Then Yen raised her hand and slapped me without hesitation, and the fishy sweetness immediately spread between my lips and teeth. That night he mentioned to me for the first time, "Jiboda, let's get a divorce." I really loved Yen, so even if Rizu told me to let go, I was still unwilling and reluctant to let them have an easy time. So I ended up getting myself bruised and battered, and now Ito Makoto has tasted my original pain. As for the fact that he could leave as soon as he said after breaking up last time. This time it was a completely opposite choice, which made me suspect that it was because of his retreat into his confidence. The tool he used to stimulate my fiancée was unconscious. The farce continued. When I stirred my coffee and tried to look away, I accidentally glimpsed a vague figure in the corner of the crowd, calmly looking at the crazy Itomakoto. It was Yu. After many days, his soul appeared again, but this time he was no longer trapped by my side, but he could no longer get close to me. The distance of 3 meters was the closest he could get to me. I thought he would not follow me after he was free, but I didn't expect that every morning when I went out to work, I could see him standing quietly under a ginkgo tree near the gate of the community. The moment he saw me, he would subconsciously walk towards me and then seem to be dragged back to his original place by a strong force. Every time he would walk towards me, he would be dragged back every time. I don't know if he would also hope that someone would see him when he wandered around in this world like a lonely ghost. But one evening when I came out of the dessert shop, I looked in his direction with a smile on my lips. After the slight shock, he seemed to move his lips excitedly, and judging from his lip shape, he was probably calling G. Boda. Then I carried the exquisitely wrapped small cake and walked forward step by step, watching him have to step back step by step until I stopped a position before him. He saw Joram walking towards me through his body. Since the accident, Joram has been recuperating at home. During this period, I visited her once with flowers and fruits and paid for all the medical expenses and the cost of hiring a nurse. He did not refuse. When I asked him if he needed anything else, he looked into my eyes and said, "It's my birthday in a month." Now that he has recovered and it happens to be his birthday, I carried the cake and prepared to fulfill my promise to celebrate his birthday with him. I took Joram to the parking lot. And probably saw what we were going to do and yelled at me across the crowd. "Jiboda, you are not allowed to go. Come back. Jiboda, come back." I got in the car without hesitation, looking at Liu's bloodshot look in the rearview mirror, a little dazed, and remembered a very small. Not long after I was with Liu, I changed jobs to another company. One night, I needed to work overtime, so I told Liu that she didn't have to wait for me to have dinner together. After get off work, my colleagues and I were going to have some midnight snacks, but just as I got in the car, Liu called me. Across the phone, her voice was filled with a faint smile. "Helpless and gentle, Sun Zhao Boda, I waited for you downstairs for 3 hours, and you just left me like that." In shock, I saw Liu holding a lunchbox in the rearview mirror, and immediately got out of the car and ran towards her, hugged her in my arms, and asked her why she didn't call me and waited here alone. She gently rubbed my chest and said with a smile, "Of course I dare not disturb my dear boyfriend at work." Thinking back, Liu's fake figure became smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror until it became a black dot. I heard Joram ask me what I was watching, and I jokingly answered, "Watching a joke." 15 minutes later, we arrived at the reserved restaurant. Although it was her birthday, Joram ordered the dishes according to my taste. I calmly turned my eyes to the cake, opened the package, and immediately a sweet orange scent wafted out. After lighting the candles, I held up the cake and smiled and congratulated her. "Happy birthday, Joram, make a wish." The unique lighting of the restaurant was soft and dim, and I couldn't see her face clearly through the flickering candlelight, but I knew she was looking at me seriously. Then she closed her eyes and made a wish. I heard her say, "I hope I won't be late again." I couldn't help laughing, put down the cake, raised my glass to toast him. "Then I wish your wish will come true." Later, when it was over, I was already a little drunk, and we strolled on the road by the river. The river reflected the brilliant light. I looked at it quietly for a while, then sighed and talked about private matters with Joram for the second time. I told her very frankly, "Joram, although I want a divorce, you also know that she was in a car accident and is unconscious." The night wind blew her bangs gently. She didn't care about the meaning of my words at all. She casually put her arms on the railing on the shore, tilted her head to look at me, and said bluntly, "Divorce in Widwood will always have a result." It was when he said this that I was surprised to find Yu's figure not far away. I don't know if the night breeze rolled that sentence to his ears. I looked over and saw him looking at me silently, then chuckled as if to mock himself, and his figure slowly dissipated in the wind. 3 days later, I got the result. Uyun woke up. Ito Makoto, who rushed to the hospital earlier than me, was in the cold ward, gently saying word by word under Liu Yun's calm gaze, "I have been waiting for you. Liu Yun, you finally woke up?" I don't know how he got the news that Yun woke up, and I am not interested in his sincere confession. My eyes swept across Liu Yun's eyes that had been looking at me since she appeared. I turned around and asked the doctor standing beside me, "When can he be discharged from the hospital?" The doctor explained cautiously, "Ms. You just woke up and needs to be hospitalized for observation for a period of time and do rehabilitation training." I smiled politely. "It's nothing serious. I just want to get a divorce." As soon as I finished speaking, I heard a pop sound, and Liu Yun threw the water cup in Ito Makoto's hand. Under his incredible gaze, Liu Yun stared at me closely, her eyes read as if she was angry. "Jibota, I just woke up. You didn't even ask a question. You can't wait to divorce me?" You see, he has always been good at reversing black and white and distorting facts. It was he who had done everything to force me to divorce, but now he was blaming me for divorce. Before I could even open my mouth, I heard Makoto Ito called out in a very soft voice, with confusion, "Liu Yun?" The ward fell into silence for a moment. I calmly glanced at the broken glass on the ground, ignoring Liu Yun's angry eyes, and simply turned and left, leaving only one sentence: "Notify me to divorce when I'm discharged from the hospital." After that, I never went to the hospital again, but I heard that Makoto Ito went to the hospital every day. I don't know what he was doing, and I don't care. But the bad thing is that every 2 or 3 days, I would receive a call from the hospital, and the content was nothing more than telling me about Liu Yun's recovery. I don't know if these really need to be reported to the family, but I don't want to know. So when they called again, I politely refused. He is an adult and doesn't need to tell me everything. Next time, if he is not dead, don't call me again. The second before hanging up, I heard the sound of glass hitting the floor and Makoto Ito's exclamation. "I saw Yun again 2 months later." She was discharged from the hospital. Because my car was washed, Shor who was working overtime with me, took me to the downstairs of the community. As soon as I saw her car leave, I heard an angry voice behind me, "Jibota." The smile on my lips froze, and I turned around to see that it was Liu Yun. Her face was a little pale, and she had lost a lot of weight. Her thin coat was blown up by the night wind, and the street lights stretched her shadow very long. I stood there without moving, watching him hurriedly walk towards me, and then asked me coldly, "It's so late, where are you from?" I was too lazy to pay attention to him, frowned and turned sideways. "If it's not about divorce, I don't think we have to talk." I was stopped just after taking steps. And looked fierce and gritted her teeth and said to me word by word, "Jibota, don't forget that we are not divorced yet." I almost immediately understood what he meant and felt it was extremely ironic. I couldn't help but chuckled and lowered my head and asked him gently, "Liu Yun, the marriage certificate didn't restrain you before. Do you think it can restrain me?" Ito Makoto came to me 1 month after Liu Yun was discharged from the hospital. Since Liu Yun woke up from her coma, her attitude toward her has changed 180 degrees. So obvious that even the nurses in the hospital can detect Liu Yun's indifference to Ito Makoto. After being discharged from the hospital, Liu Yun refused to meet him with the poor excuse of dealing with work, and then appeared downstairs of my company and outside the gate of the community every day. Because he didn't want to get a divorce, the first thing Ito Makoto said after he came to me was, "Jibota, you did it on purpose, didn't you? You deliberately found a woman to be ambiguous. The purpose is to stimulate Liu Yun, want her to win you back." I had just come out of the restaurant at the time and was amused by his words. I held the coffee in one hand and put the other hand casually in my trouser pocket. I looked at him with my eyebrows lowered and said calmly, "Yes, that's right. It's what you think." Jibota didn't want to continue listening to his unreasonable accusations. He strode around him, walked into the company gate and turned around, but saw that he wanted to follow him in and was then stopped by the security guard. Facing the hesitant question of the security guard, Director G, who is he? I smiled and said, idiot. After that, I didn't see Ito Makoto again, but I heard that you are Uy and ignored him again and again. After that, Ito Makoto couldn't bear it anymore and told Voice, Liu are Uy and you better not regret it. I won't give you another chance. Soon after, he was with a vice president's daughter who had a good impression of him and their company. Obviously, the harsh words left by Ito Makoto did not have any effect on Liu Yuan, because he still came to see me for various reasons as always, and insisted, Jiboda, I will not divorce. I just felt tyrannic and ridiculous. When he tried every means to force me to divorce, he probably didn't think that one day our identities would be reversed and he would be the one who said this. I even heard him say to me softly for a long time, Jiboda, let's start over, okay? He said to start over and asked me to pretend that Ito Makoto had never appeared. He had never hurt me and everything had never happened. And then I would be with him again without any grudges and love him as before. I was a little helpless, more confused, and finally I only gave him one sentence. How could I marry someone like you? Liu Yuan's words probably touched his sore spot, and he immediately became angry and shouted, Who else do you want to marry? That intern? After that, he asked me, Jiboda, have you had enough of making trouble? Your divorce is for the pursuit of true love, and I want a divorce is unreasonable. In fact, I haven't been angry for a long time since I gave up on him. My career is going well, my friends are around, and my life is comfortable. It seems that nothing is worth my anger. Until this moment, my emotions were aroused again, and words were not enough for me to vent my anger, so I raised my hand and slapped him hard without hesitation. After a slap, there was silence. Yuan's face was tilted to one side. He kept his head tilted for a long time, and then he chuckled. I returned the slap I owed you. Are you satisfied? I know that you allowed him to get close just to retaliate against me, Jiboda. You have achieved your goal. I don't deny that I am indeed somewhat attracted to Zhuang. The reason for my attraction is very simple. Once I was troubled for a long time because of a difficult project. In the evening, I sat alone on a chair in the square in a daze. In my ears were all kinds of laughter and playing sounds, colorful balloons and bubbles floating around, but they had nothing to do with me. It was in such a picture that a teddy bear led a balloon through the crowd and walked to my side. The balloon was tied to my wrist and then it danced for me. To be honest, the dance was not standard, but I was still amused by it. I leaned back slightly and looked at him and teased, dancing the bunny dance in a teddy bear costume. Zhuang is really something. He took a few steps closer and took off the hood, revealing a rosy face. His temples were soaked with sweat, but his eyes were clear and bright, and his gaze was fixed on my face. It doesn't matter what you wear. It doesn't matter what you dance. What matters is that Jiboda smiled. Yes, I laughed. So the reason was that simple. He made me happy. Later, I squinted and looked at him carefully, thought for a while, and asked him, The teddy bear that appeared in front of me last time was also you, right? On the night when Uy and I had our first quarrel because of Ito Makoto, I was sitting against the glass wall in the coffee shop, feeling depressed when a teddy bear walked towards me and performed a magic trick for me through the glass. At that time, Zhuang hadn't come to the company yet, and I didn't know who the person under the hood was. I only remember that at the end, after I silently expressed thank you to him with my lips, he looked at me quietly for a few seconds, then slowly turned and walked into the crowd. Not long after that, I heard his self-introduction in front of the company's interns. Hello, my name is Zhuang. Unlike the previous time, Zhuang took off the hood, stood in front of me and looked at me for a while, then whispered, Do you still remember me? I pulled the balloon on my wrist and blinked. Of course I remember you. Compared to the strong liquor-like feelings that Liu Yuan brought me, Zhuang's feelings are like a glass of refreshing and clean lemonade. It is not so exciting, nor will it make people lose themselves. It is calm and warm. Moreover, because of a failed relationship, I will not be completely heartbroken. That would make it seem that the short for years with you or you Y and are too important to my long life. So I did not resist your arm's affection. After all, there is nothing wrong with love. People are wrong, and you are you, YN is just a mistake I met in my life. Let it go, and everything has nothing to do with him from now on, and I will not use this sincere relationship to retaliate against him. Therefore, in response to you are you YN's rather confident questioning, I just shook my head lightly and looked at him sarcastically. You think too highly of yourself, Liu are you YN. His face turned pale the moment I finished speaking. He opened his mouth, his voice trembling slightly on the little hoarse Jiboda. I know it was my fault before. I was too obsessed and hurt you. But now I know I was wrong. I understand that the person I really love is you. So I will not divorce. Facing his paranoid look, I smiled nonchalantly. If this is the case, then lure you in. You can also try what it feels like when the person you love is thinking about another woman day and night. The knife that he stabbed at me with his own hands eventually stabbed back at himself. And said that the person he really loved was me. To be honest, when I heard this, my heart did not fluctuate at all, and I even wanted to laugh. If I have to pay the price of being severely hurt before he can tell who he really loves, then this love is an insult to me. What's more, this is based on the fact that Ito Makoto deceived him, abandoned him, and made him regret it. After that, Liu Yuan continued to pester me for a long time. I did not deliberately avoid him, nor did I angrily tell him to get out. Downstairs of the company late at night, at the entrance of the community in the rain, he would stand if he wanted to, and wait if he wanted to. After all, except for the despicable way of pestering, he could no longer enter my life. In fact, we are still in a marriage relationship. When he came to me again, he asked me this sentence, Jubota, you don't love me that much, right? I don't know what kind of mood he said this in. I lowered my head and looked at his eyebrows carefully and asked him, Liu Run, do you still remember the summer of the second year of our marriage? On that summer evening when the cicadas were chirping, we were having a barbecue in an outdoor restaurant when we encountered a group of drunk people who were gathering to make trouble. In the chaos, I blocked a Halberfic wine bottle for you, Run. My thin shirt was torn instantly, and the blood from the wound on my waist stained a Lyargeria of you, Run's white gauze skirt reed. When I woke up in the hospital ward, I saw you Run sitting beside my bed in a mess with red eyes. She held my hand and said hoarsely, Jubota, please don't be like this, okay? I really can't accept you being hurt. I smiled weakly at her at the time. Don't worry, it doesn't hurt much. It really didn't hurt much, far less than the harm you gave me later. The memories were carried on in silence, and none of us spoke. I could only hear his trembling breathing in my ears. Finally, I sighed helplessly. Liu Run, for years ago you were invincible in my heart. After a long time he seemed to have some difficulty speaking, his voice hoarse and dry. What about now? In your heart now, am I no longer better than him? I looked at him seriously, unshook my head. Liu Run, you are not in my heart now. Perhaps he had finally reached the end of the road. He showed a bleak smile and began to play the family card. But Jibota, you promised Grandma that you would be with me. I was a little tired and silent. I didn't say anything. I just opened my phone and showed him a photo. There was a letter from my grandmother in it. The general meaning was that if you are and did anything excessive, don't have to worry about it. Leave him and don't look back. I thought that this letter would never be used, but I didn't expect it to be used twice. The first time I didn't listen to her advice in time and I pestered her for a long time. The second time was at this moment. I don't know when it started to drizzle outside the window and the gloomy dusk fell. R's eyes were red. In the end, she said nothing, turned around and left with hurried steps and embarrassed back. A long, long time ago, I imagined that when I was forced to divorce by Run, I would look at her glamorous and beautiful girl with pain and hatred, and then say, Run, I will never forgive you in my life. Now that this day has really come, I am unusually calm. When we met at the Civil Affairs Bureau, you Run looked much more haggard. I heard that she went back from a heavy rain that day with a high fever and was taken to the hospital by ambulance. Perhaps the car accident really had a great impact on her body. My friend told me on the phone, with a smile in her tone. The sequelae of the car accident have appeared, and I don't know how long she can live. He cheated on me during marriage and betrayed my sincerity. This is what he deserves. I hired the best divorce lawyer and submitted all the evidence of Liu Yuan's cheating, so when the property was divided, I didn't give up a single cent of the benefits that should have belonged to me. During the process of handling the procedures, Liu Yuan remained silent until she left. Before parting, she suddenly spoke, as if asking me, and as if talking to herself, if Ito Makoto hadn't come back at that time, we could have walked through this life together. If Ito Makoto hadn't come back, his deception of me might never have been exposed, but he would always miss the white moonlight he loved but could not have. The longer the time, the better the image of the white moonlight in his heart. One day, he would start to constantly recall Ito Makoto because of the little conflicts between us, and I would become the object of his disgust in the process of being silently compared by him. I looked up at the cloudless sky and smiled slightly. Liu Yuan, I would not have fallen into this vortex of entanglement between three people. It was you who dragged me in for your own selfish interests. Life after the divorce didn't change much. I went to work and socialized normally. Occasionally, when I finished a project, I would take a few days off to travel. Except for one thing, Zhorong and I confirmed our relationship 3 months after my divorce. When I attended a friend's birthday party, I was taking a breath on the terrace. A partner on the project came over, handed me a glass of wine, and asked politely and delicately. I talked about an old movie where we worked together before. I recently found the soundtrack CD. I wonder if Director G is interested. We are all adults, and the meaning is self-evident. I pulled the corners of my lips slightly, smiled, and was about to speak when I heard a crisp voice behind her. Sorry, I'll cue first. It was Joram. She was wearing a bright and delicate fisted skirt, her long black hair hanging behind her. She just stood there quietly, looking at me steadily, gentle and gorgeous. The night wind brought some unknown flower fragrance. I was the first to break the silence, glanced at the wind glass in my partner's hand calmly, and said bluntly, sorry, I like lemonade. If you refuse, just stop there. Soon, Joram and I were the only ones left on the terrace. I stood quietly for a while, then lowered my head slightly, smiled leisurely, and asked him, so, Joram, what movie are we going to see? He looked up at me, his eyes sparkling, and his tone was particularly serious. Let's go see I Love You. There were no spectacular and memorable moments between Joram and I, but whenever I think of them, I feel that they are full of beautiful and heartwarming moments. The warm milk he brought me in the morning, the hangover tea he made for me in the evening, the iron shirts, the well-matched ties, and my favorite spare ribs on the dinner table every day. Sometimes I looked in the mirror at him carefully blowing my hair, and I couldn't help but recall the first time I noticed the evidence of his thoughts. It was probably when he was standing behind me in the same elevator, and his eyes rested on me through the mirror, a look that was not quite innocent. Joang is very mature in mental age, sober and independent, and has outstanding abilities. In this relationship between us, he has paid more than me, which is visibly visible to the naked eye. And I, except for providing him with companionship, seem to have nothing to give. Occasionally, I would ask him if he felt it was unfair. He shook his head calmly, hugged me and sighed with inexplicable grievance in his voice. I just feel that you will pull away at any time. To be honest, I've been betrayed in relationships, so even if I'm attracted to him, I will still leave a way out and not give him all my love. After a moment of silence, I coolly say, it's my problem that I can't make you feel 100 of my love. Hearing this, he smiled as if relieved, and his tone was very serious. Then I will love you a little more. I don't know how far Joran and I can go, but when we are together, I can feel comfortable and happy, and I will live every day well. If we are compatible, we will stay together, and if we are not compatible, we will separate. As long as we are comfortable, this is the truth I got from the failed relationship with Liu Yuan. The next time I saw you, RUYN, was at a welcoming party for a friend who returned to China in the second year after our divorce. On my way back to the box from the bathroom, I was blocked at one end of the corridor because some people gathered to watch the excitement and crowded together, blocking the passage. I stepped away from the crowd and wanted to see what happened, but I saw you, RUYN, who was also blocked at the other end of the crowd. She was looking at me quietly, and I looked away as if nothing had happened. I just looked up and saw the crazy roaring like one of the crazy male protagonists was stunned. It was Ito Makoto. Sometimes I have to cite the magic of fate. It made the three of us meet on a narrow road because of an affair, and now we bump into each other again in the same scene. Ito Makoto got married not long after he got together with the daughter of the vice president. Unfortunately, he cheated in the second year of marriage. For a moment, I didn't know whether I should sympathize with him for being cheated on repeatedly or be happy about his retribution. But I hope that in every minute and every second of his pain, he will think of someone who once was tortured like this. Later, when the crowd dispersed and RUY and Undai passed by, he suddenly called my name and then said in a hoarse voice, "I'm sorry." I stopped to look, and I couldn't tell what his expression was. It seemed sad, guilty, or uncontrollable grief. I had no interest in thinking about it, and said in a gentle tone, "I won't forgive you, and I hope you don't live well." He is indeed not doing well. It is said that due to the sequel of a car accident, he has been seeing a doctor abroad for many years, but it is in vain in the end. Both physically and mentally, his condition is worsening. Hearing this, he staggered, and when Zhang called me from a distance and walked towards me, he turned his back very quickly. Inexplicably, I felt that his back was a little hunched, and he was still trembling slightly but silently. After returning home and lying on the bed, I was too tired to talk. I took Zhang's mobile phone and flipped through it quietly and aimlessly. He probably thought that after a YN, I remembered the bad past and was unhappy, so he came over and held my hand and apologized in a gentle voice. "I'm sorry, I'm late." Just at this moment, I accidentally turned to an old photo in her album that was taken many years ago, and the person in it was me. In my junior year, I worked as an English tutor for a high school student. His parents were divorced and he lived with his mother, but his mother was busy with her career. Apart from things related to her studies, she would not give him any affection in life. He needed English tutoring, but he just wanted to observe it deliberately and wanted to attract his mother's attention, because my role was not so much that of a tutor as that of a special companion to him. The last class was his birthday, and I didn't know what he liked, so I picked an orange-flavored cake. He didn't eat much, and I thought he didn't like it. Unexpectedly, when we were about to say goodbye at the end of the course, he solemnly told me, "I like it very much." That student was Zhang. He secretly took the photo of me eating cake with his phone stuck in the turning pages of the textbook. In fact, I recognized her the first time I saw her in the company. What surprised me was that she not only secretly took the photo of me, but also kept the photo for so long. My heart suddenly trembled. I didn't know if her late meant that she didn't leave the box and leave with me earlier, or that she didn't come to me before UY and hurt me. But it doesn't matter. I will hold her hand and smile at her. It's not late. It's just right. The night breeze is cool. The moonlight is gentle. And with my lover by my side, everything is just right. The full text is over. Thank you for watching.